All right, so this is a very informal gathering. Hi, Derek. I was mentioning to Willie before everybody else popped on that I like to call this a coffee break. It may be a lunch break for some of you on the East Coast as well, but this is really where I wanted to start bringing people together so that number one, we can start learning from all of you about some of your successes and challenges, but number two, so that you can really start getting to know each other. So we have two cohorts of grantees on this call. We have 2021 grantees. So some of you were just received your first or second NACD grant very recently. And we have 2020 grantees. So some of you are finishing out some of your projects through the NACD grant program. But with that said, we also have districts that span the spectrum of experience in urban ag and urban conservation issues. So many of you have been doing this for many years, like Kim Rush Lynch. She's an urban ag specialist, so she has a lot of experience in this field, but some of you may be starting out. So this is a great opportunity for all of you to learn from each other. Some of our newer districts in this space can learn from some of your more experienced, and some of our more experienced districts can perhaps get some new and creative, innovative ideas on how to approach different things. So this is really, like I said, going to be an informal opportunity to just connect and share information, learn from each other. And then I know you have your quarterly reports due in a couple days as well. So this is also a reminder to submit those if you haven't already. And if you have any specific questions about those, of course, please let me know either after the call or via email, and we can certainly work those out. So before we get started, I would like to have a couple key individuals introduce themselves. We have Alex Schmidt, who's our chair of the Urban and Community Resource Policy Group, which is our special committee in NACD that manages these grants. So Alex, are you available to say hello?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Just wanted to thank you all for coming, and hope we have a productive round of Q&A for answering everybody's questions. So thanks for participating in our grant program.
Thank you, Alex. And now I'm going to pop over to you, Ron, who's our vice chair and also really instrumental in getting this program going and hugely supportive of all of your projects. So thank you, Ron.
I'm just going to echo what Alex said. And I'm here to learn from you folks, and how do we, what's your challenges, what's working well, and how can we improve the program as it goes on if we continue to get funding. So it's just been an exciting ride with these grants and with the urban work that has been done in the last 4 to 5 years. It's just amazing. The absolute ingenuity and ideas that folks come up with. So I'm just here to listen and learn.
Thanks, Ron. And so many of you know me already. You may actually know me in my primary role as the Pacific region representative for NACD. So if you're less familiar with our structure with NACD, we break the region up into 7 regions. I cover the Pacific region, which includes the Pacific Overseas Territories from Palau all the way over to Idaho, Alaska, Oregon, California, Washington. And the bulk of my work is developing partnerships, advocacy work, education opportunities, et cetera, for those states, and of course, promoting programs like this to those specific states. So we have one of our newest employees with NACD is on the call as well, and she holds a similar role for the Southwest. And so Rachel, are you available to say hello to this group as well?
Yeah, thanks, Ariel. Hello, everybody. As Ariel just stated, I am the new Southwest region rep. So I live in Buena Vista, Colorado. And before my coming to NACD, I worked for the State Conservation Board in Colorado. And so a little familiarity just with the urban grants within Colorado, but I'm really looking forward to learning more about all the neat projects that you guys are up to. So thanks for letting me sit in.
All right, thank you, Rachel. And so for all of our grantees, everyone at NACD is a resource. If for some reason you can't get a hold of me, which is probably likely at certain points in time, then you can of course reach out to people like Rachel or Ron, Alex. We're all here as a resource to help you in whatever it is that you need, and continue to make sure that we're getting the great stories that you're telling through your work out to the world. So as Ron mentioned, we can continue to get funding and support projects like yours. All right, so if you remember from the invitation, I asked each of you to bring one success and one challenge with you to this meeting. So this is how we're going to kind of have this set up here. All of you are going to share a little info about yourselves and your project, just so that we can continue to get to know each other, build camaraderie around some of our success stories, and also help each other work through some of our challenges as well. So I'll call on you. And I'd like you to first say your name and location, so your district and state. And some of you are in places that many of us are not familiar with, so a little geographic orientation in your state might be helpful as well. One sentence project description. So try and keep your description brief about what you are or will be doing through your NECD urban grant, and then one challenge and one success of your project. All right, does that sound good to everybody? All right, awesome. So let's get started. And Willie arrived first on this call, so his prize is getting to go first.
My goodness, I knew there was a prize. Good afternoon from my side, ladies and gentlemen. I'm with the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District, and we cover the entire Fairfax County itself. A gist of our project is we intend to work with at least 8 community gardens that either are in existence or that are about to start but need some impetus to get going. And so that's the focus of how we're going to use that grant. Success I've been having is really the exposure to a different entity of Fairfax County that I'm never used to, that is working with the community, especially those that are in food insecure area. The challenges I've been having is the bureaucracy that I'm beginning to experience in terms of getting permission to either interact with these people or to establish a garden.
Great, thank you, Willie. And I want to encourage all of you to use the chat box as well. So I know some of you have experience dealing with bureaucracy, for example. So if you have any suggestions for Willie or anything that he might be able to learn from, please feel free to pop that in too. And as well as any events that you have coming up or workshops or anything like that that you would like to share information about. So thank you, Willie. All right, next up, we will go with Sarah Jones.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Here, let me turn my video back on. Hi, I'm the Executive Director for the Placer County Resource Conservation District, and our district covers most of Placer County other than what's in the Tahoe Basin on the far eastern portion of the county. So we're in the Sierra foothills here in California. So hello, everyone. We got a grant to do technical assistance for backyard, balcony, and urban farmers and gardeners. So we've hit the ground running pretty quickly. We've already got a lot of traction and people are really excited about getting that technical assistance. A couple of our parts of our grant is that we're going to connect growers with food pantries. So we're doing an inventory of a community assessment of the food pantries that are out there, as well as community garden assessment. So what do we have here in the county and what are the needs? I know I'm not the lead on this project, so actually my employee Andrew is, and he might be on the line. Is there anything I missed, Andrew, that you'd like to add to that? He's kind of in and out of this call, so if he's not there, we'll keep moving on.
Yeah, Sarah, that was a really good description of it. The only thing I'd add is one of our initiatives is for fresh food access to those who are food insecure is one of our 3 big points that we're doing with this grant.
And do you want to go ahead and give the challenges and successes, Andrew, since you're on the call?
Sure, yeah. One of the challenges has been within Placer County, there's a lot of silos, different organizations that are doing work with fresh food access. We're not so much with fresh food access, but with food insecurity. And so one of the things we're trying to do is create, kind of piece all that together to kind of see what's happening countywide. And so it's been a challenge, but it's also been really fun doing that. And one of the successes is successfully getting in a container garden project So we supplied container gardens to 100 clients of local food pantries. And so that was really exciting, and really glad to work with a number of partners, novel partners, for the first time for our district. So that was really awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Anything else to add, Sarah or Brian from Placer? All right, looks good. Then next up, Dan Richardson in Underwood. Are you with us?
You bet. Thanks. Good morning, Ariel, everybody. So our district's located in South Central Washington State. There's not really a town called Underwood. It's sort of a relic name. We cover 1.5 counties. Our grant was really multifaceted. You get the district engaged with the small farm or local food economy. And that meant everything from getting some training for staff, getting some equipment, getting a couple of programs that were sort of someday programs. We ought to do this someday, either planned out or underway. So it was pretty multifaceted. One challenge we had was part of our grant was to host several small farm or aspiring farmer workshops. Pretty hands-on, obviously in person, and those fizzled due to COVID and COVID restrictions, and a key partner who was going to lead those basically withdrew and just said, I'm out. So that was a challenge. One success has been we have finally formed a good working partnership with a regional food organization that works kind of on our periphery, but really ought to be engaged in our area too, and worked with them to bring back a small farm tours program, really for farmers. Crop Talks is what it's called, and that's live. That just started this spring and is ongoing. It's really building a sense of camaraderie between our organizations, but also just between the farmers who participate.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. And selfishly, I'm going to put you on the spot again. So most of you should know that we have monthly urban and community webinars. And so Dan had an opportunity to listen into one of those webinars and learn from Oklahoma on a specific program they were doing. So Dan, would you mind sharing a little information about that as well?
Oh, sure. Glad to, Erin. So the webinar was about a backyard habitat program called Yard by Yard. I think its title is actually Conservation, Yard by Yard. And it was a pretty neat backyard habitat program. It's something that we have thought about for a while and had actually sort of looked at how we might roll out in our district. Didn't have any funding. A previous model we had looked at was really intensive for the amount of gain you get out of it, and the Yard by Yard seemed like a really good fit in that it was more about meeting people where they were, and I guess inspiring in suburban folks or urban landowners a sense of how to engage with the sort of the natural world around them. And we thought that was a perfect fit. So we kind of copied that idea. The folks at Oklahoma CD and NACD were both very supportive, and we borrowed that, kind of reworked it a bit to meet our needs. We have obviously different flora and fauna, and rolled that out. I just did my 3rd visit yesterday. And the people that have gotten into it, it's been a slow rollout, in part because it's a sort of a 1.0 version of our program. And every visit is a learning opportunity for me. But the people that have gotten into it have been really excited. And we have a backyard habitat program now. It's pretty low maintenance, it's pretty low key, but I think over time it's going to build up to be a really positive way for us to interact with, you might say, urban. It's a number of people that live in town, and that's really a constituency we need to serve, at least in our district. Traditionally, we don't do a lot of conservation work in town, and And this is a way to let people get in on that and to interact with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. So I just wanted to put that plug in there for the monthly webinars, but then also to highlight the benefit of all of you really coming together and learning from each other, because there's such a wealth of amazing programs that all of you can learn from to help implement your own. All right, so next up, let's go to Erin James.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Erin James. I'm with the Jefferson County, Kentucky Soil and Water Conservation District. Our grant this year is centered around really two big aspects, one of which is establishing a demonstration space for our county because we don't currently have one. And then the other is making a pilot program to figure out what it would be like to start putting pollinator gardens into schools in a way that is sustainable and can lead to agricultural models in the future by helping schools make the case to our school board for establishing outdoor classrooms in a really solid way. You know, I'm sure you all are familiar with pollinator gardens getting mowed over or chopped down despite all of the signage that you put up when you wouldn't, you know, ask a janitor to clean a classroom and then take a sledgehammer to it. And so we're really trying to figure out a way to move forward in our county for that. One challenge we've had, and I'm gonna say the challenge first because we solved it and I'm really excited. Our challenge has been finding land in Jefferson County, which is really the challenge for all of our growers here. We live in the most populated county in the state, 750,000 people. And sorry, my cat is breaking into the room. So I came in here and she found me. They're basically run by developers, and so it's hard to get land that can accommodate it. There's no water access, there's no parking. And so we found a partner, we found two partners, the Farmington Historic Plantation, which is an established area. It's got places for parking for field trips, water set up. They have their own gardens as virtue by the fact that they were a hemp plantation. And another partner is our Master Gardeners Association for the county. They wanted to do a demonstration space, and so they figured it would make sense to pool our resources and our knowledge together and do it. The other thing that I'm really excited about for this is that the Farmington Historic Plantation is forming a coalition with two other educational entities, Historic Locust Grove and the Farnsley Mormon Plantation in our county, and they are forming this coalition to start working together with the Slave Dwelling Project out of South Carolina. And so this is going to allow us to start exploring what environmental and agricultural education looks like when we start broadening it and making it interdisciplinary, when we start talking about the contributions of enslaved people and their unpaid labor to the success of agriculture in Kentucky. How has that changed? What are we still hanging on to without realizing it? We can start talking about how indigenous communities and you know how they were pushed off of their land contributed to our success, and how we can honor that history and still move forward in a way that helps make agriculture in a really urban area equitable. And for everyone. It's also on the bus line, which is another thing that we kept running into, is people had space, but there wasn't really public transportation that could get them there because it was way out on the edges of the county. So I'm pretty excited. Also, there's a monarch butterfly outside my window, and I just wanted to share that with this room because you seem like that you've into that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. That was really helpful. And that's something that the Urban RPG is really focused on as well, is making sure that our grants are equitable and that grantees are reaching out to various historically underserved populations, underrepresented populations, et cetera. So thank you for all of your work in that space and letting us learn from you too. All right, so next up we have Jacob. So if any of you listened in on our last monthly webinar, you already know some of Jacob's challenges, but hopefully we can hear some successes as well. Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jacob Pamlister. I work for Cuyahoga Soil and Water, Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, so like Ariel said, last month I did the presentation about a lot of the challenges we face. We're doing a food forest, actually on 2 food forests in Cleveland, working with different socioeconomic areas. So one more impoverished, one more middle class, one more learning oriented, one more park oriented. And the biggest challenge we faced was definitely land control, working with various municipalities, land banks, private owners, et cetera, to get control of some area to put these plants in. But the success that came from that, I like to turn problems into opportunities. So the opportunity was to work with a lot of new partners and kind of bring more people into the project than initially anticipated.
Excellent. Thank you, Jacob. All right, Jennifer Casey.
Hi, everyone. I'm with Duval County Soil and Water Conservation District, and our grant is funding Regeneration Park, which is a community stewardship and green infrastructure project in the Jacksonville's urban core in a neighborhood that has Duval County's highest rate of poverty and lowest average income. The community where we're putting this half-acre permaculture park is was historically an affluent African-American neighborhood, and then some decades ago, the interstate I-95 went right through the community, destroying the neighborhood and the community life in that area. So what we're endeavoring to do is to have this, it'll be our district's first demonstration project on public land. And we're going to actually, the site was contaminated by the rail yard years ago, and it was remediated with an asphalt cap. And so what we're trying to do is build up healthy soils at the site. And we're going to have a series of educational workshops on building with nature. So building biodiversity, building a bioswale, and building healthy soils. So that's our plan, and we're super excited about it. One success that we've had, I think, is in contrast to somebody who shared earlier, we actually have had a lot of success in working with the city. This is the first time that we've tried to work with the city in any, real special project like this. And so we were hesitant at first, and we have found one individual within our city's Parks and Rec department who's like our champion. She's our hero. So if you can find that person, in your county government, that person that's really passionate about what it is you're trying to do, that's really the key, because where she came from, another city, that was her passion, and she's moved into Parks and Recs from urban permaculture. So she's a good resource for us. And so that's been great. We were also able to reappropriate a Jacksonville Environmental Protection Board grant due to the fact that we didn't have a lot of student programs this year because of the pandemic. And so we were able to reappropriate those funds to help enhance this project. Our challenge is twofold. One is just time, because of the nature of what we're doing, building healthy soils. We've had wood chips and all of that delivered to the site. And so, we're having the workshops, but a lot of it is just sort of waiting for nature to do its job. We're inoculating those wood chips, so we're going to break down into healthy soil, and that just takes time. Another challenge is community involvement because of the neighborhood that we're in and because of the demographics of the area. As far as getting our neighbors right there, local there, in walking distance from the park, that's a challenge. And so we're trying to meet that challenge. My colleague is on the call. She's just listening in today, Allison O'Donoghue, but she's come up with a plan to do some canvassing. It's hard to do. It's a high crime area as well, but putting together teams to canvass and take flyers door to door, I think is going to be our way of overcoming that challenge. But thank you for having us on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Jennifer. And I'm sure you have a lot of colleagues that have run into the similar situation in terms of getting that extremely hyper local buy-in too. So if anyone has any recommendations for Jennifer, feel free to pop those in the chat box too. Thank you. All right, next up, Damon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Damon Yakliff, environmental planner here at Cumberland County Soil and Water Conservation District. So we're in Windham, Maine, which is close to Portland, which is Maine's largest city. We're in southern Maine here, the most urban part of a very rural state. Portland, Maine's largest city, has 66,000 people. So, small by most standards across the country, I guess. But we have a lot of interest in traditional agriculture here and growing interest in community agriculture or urban agriculture. So our district has had 2 NACD grants 2016 and 2020. Before 2016, we didn't have much of a community agriculture program. So I really appreciate NACD for creating this program, because without that, I don't think our district would have had a community agriculture program to speak of. So the 2016 program grant really let us start up our program, identify some needs, and write some additional grants, which we got funded. One of them was an EPA Healthy Communities grant, and some other private grants around building food forests and creating youth programming in some of our more suburban or rural communities here. There's always been a lot of interest in Portland, but we're trying to grow the program outside of the city and make it more of a regional, county-wide phenomenon, or something that really can benefit people outside of Portland and the rest of the county. So the 2020 grant built on some of the work we'd done, and it was a planning project actually, where we created a toolkit that could be used for municipalities to write a community agriculture plan. And then we wrote plans for 4 communities in our county, and we actually did some implementation projects as well in some of the communities. So one of the, it's a strength and it's a challenge here, that in the Northeast, and especially in New England, we have extremely strong municipalities and very weak county level or regional planning or government organizations. So, there's a lot of duplication of efforts where municipalities, something could be working really well in one, but not in a neighboring municipality that otherwise is very similar. So a lot of it depends on staff interests. So a big sort of challenge here was understanding, some of the limits of staff capacity and trying to problem solve around that. And one of the things we came up with was identifying some point people or point departments that would actually take the lead on community agriculture within each municipality. So I think that was really good. We wouldn't have really understood that very well without having done this project. And so yeah, I think it was overall, we got everything done that we wanted to get done. It was a little harder than it would have been without COVID, obviously. That took some wind out of our sails. And I feel like at the very end of the project, we really got some momentum going. So we're wrapping up right now. We started February 2020 and we ended in June of 2021. So it pretty much bookends the whole pandemic, unfortunately. But I think going forward, we have some really good momentum and some ideas, and people are coming back. And one other thing to mention too, Maine is at the end of supply chains, national supply chains. So 90% of our food comes from outside of the state, and the state actually has a plan to triple that by 2030. So that's something we're going to tie into as well. So getting to 30% local food production, it's going to have to come from home gardeners, from small farms, as well as from traditional agriculture. And a big part of that's going to be stimulating demand and educating people about the benefits of local food and what's out there. And that's where a lot of these food forests and community garden projects come in. It's both increasing supply and increasing demand and interest and understanding. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And we just found out we got another grant project funded, another EPA Healthy Communities grant. So we're very excited about that and continuing our program here. And I think a big focus for us going forward within our wheelhouse at the Conservation District is soil testing, and specifically soil lead awareness. So that's what this Healthy Communities project is. We took an existing project that was just a small part of Portland, and now we're expanding it to operate throughout the county. Really appreciate NACD's work. And I see in the chat, the link to the toolkit, I can put a link in the chat. It's on our website. We've got everything there. We've got the example plan templates, and I'll put my email address as well. And phone number. I'm happy to discuss further with anyone who's interested in what we've done and share some perspectives.
Awesome. Thank you, Damon. And I think your district just recently did a webinar as well on the toolkit, right? Is there a recording to that you might be able to share with the group too, in case people want to learn more from some of the communities that implemented that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be happy to share that. It's about a 1-hour webinar that we did. So yeah, I'll put that in the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Joe from Snohomish.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm going to leave my video off since my internet connection is a little unstable. Can you folks hear me?
Yeah, sounds fine.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Well, I'm really excited for this grant opportunity, and I'll start with just a sentence giving a synopsis of the project. So as a lot of folks have mentioned, mine as well is increasing access to locally sourced nutritious food for underserved communities throughout Snohomish County. We're located in Northwest Washington, kind of on the foothills of the Cascades. And so a lot of what I'm going to be doing and starting to do is community garden installations, and as well as vegetable start distribution. The locations that we are focusing on include food desert regions, and primarily collaborating with nonprofits which assist folks who were previously unhoused, folks who are marginalized, and providing food security aspects as well as therapeutic aspects for these folks. And some challenges include some of the garden spaces had some changes in their garden plans and garden site requirements. So some of the locations that maybe were initially interested in, let's say, raised garden beds are now more interested in balcony planter boxes for some of the larger scale apartment complexes. So it just means that we're adapting the locations that folks are going to grow food. Instead of a larger garden bed raised garden box, it's now going to be more prevalent balcony boxes for those folks. So not a huge difference, just a change in where the food's going to be grown. I would say some successes include a increased engagement through food sovereignty approach, and so giving folks a chance to have a say in what kind of vegetable varieties are grown to meet the cultural needs of these residents in the communities really increases the overall engagement and success of the program. I would also say a success can be the benefit of growing food on site for the folks who would be consuming it in food insecure regions, so they don't need to be driving or taking a bus elsewhere to be where the food is served. But since the folks are food insecure and it's grown on site, they can just eat it right then and there where it's processed and produced. One of our locations even has a cafe that helps folks who were previously unhoused have job training in a cafe setting. And so some of the food grown is actually going to be distributed and sold and eaten at that cafe as well. Another success I would say is a lot of the vegetable starts that we're distributing throughout the county include vegetables from the legume family, so peas and beans, and of course that is a nitrogen fixer for the soil, and so we're adding nutrients to the garden sites while we're also providing food security aspects.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. All great work there that you've got going on. All right, next up we have Kim Rush Lynch, and we did have a question earlier from Diana asking about funding for beginning farmers programs. So Kim, this one, if you don't mind sharing a little information on that too, that would be helpful.
Sure, no problem. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Ariel, for hosting this. Steve sends his regrets. He loves doing these things and wasn't able to make it today. But I am joined by my colleague, Joseph Hamid. He was our district conservationist in our office for many years. And just to kick it off, one of our successes for our grant is to hire Joseph as our Urban Farm Incubator Conservation Coordinator. So again, I'm Kim Rush Lynch. I'm with the Prince George's Soil Conservation District, and I'm the Urban Ag Conservation Planner there. And Prince George's County is in Maryland, just outside of DC. We're actually across the district and the river from Willie, where Willie works. Willie actually lives in Prince George's County, so he's a neighbor of ours. Anyway, so our project is basically, we're working with EcoCity Farms, which is an urban farm in the county that runs a beginning farmer training program. And they're mainly working with farmers of color and also a variety of immigrant communities. And one thing that has stemmed continuously from their program is lack of land and infrastructure for their farmers once they leave the program. I'm sure all of you are running into that same issue with your urban farmers and farmers in general. So we're working with Park and Planning, our Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. They have an agricultural leasing program but traditionally it's mainly been for commodity farms and just farmers who are looking for larger tracts of land. So we've approached them a few years ago about starting to lease to smaller acreage farmers. And one of the things that we mentioned, it would be really helpful to have an incubator farm. So we're working with them and EcoCity Farms to launch an incubator farm at Watkins Park. It's an 11-acre parcel. And the purpose of our grant is actually to put in the soil and water conservation practices necessary to, to make it viable and just, environmentally sound, of course, and conservation minded, as well as to work with individual farmers on their conservation practices and the agronomic conservation practices for their specific plots. That part will probably come in spring and sort of be towards the end of the grant, but we have a lot of work to do to get it kicked off. So again, one success is, being able to hire our conservation coordinator. And also we found out that Park and Planning was able to encumber funds to get the well dug and installed, and the irrigation and also the fencing. So that will be a huge boon to this project. One of our challenges, however, is, because we're working with, someone had mentioned bureaucracy earlier, the bureaucracy of Park and Planning, and also, it's really tough to find a company to dig a well, so we're kind of on a little bit longer time frame for that. So things just aren't moving as quickly as we would like. I would say that's our biggest challenge, but all good things, happening in good time. So, and I don't know if Joseph has anything to add, but thanks again for having us. Oh, and regarding the Beginning Farmer Training Program, I know that USDA has several grants, and I'll drop my email in the chat box, and I can look at some other ones as well to share.
Awesome, thank you, Kim. Joseph, would you like to share any additional information about the program? Actually, looks like he might not be with us anymore, actually. All right, well, perfect. Thank you so much, Kim. And Prince George's is an excellent resource. Oh, there you are. Perfect. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. No, I just want to, thanks for the invite. Look forward to listening and chatting in on these as every monthly or how often they are, and getting to know what some of the wonderful projects that's going on around the country. So it's really exciting, and look forward to having, thanks for the opportunity to participate.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Claire, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Claire. So I work with the Hubbard County Soil and Water Conservation District, and that's in northern Minnesota. So I just joined them this summer to help work on some of the projects with this grant. So what we're hoping to do is implement 5 different demonstration gardens. So we have a vegetable garden, fruit garden, pollinator garden, water garden, and a mixed garden. So hopefully they're going to be in various locations, and they're all at various stages right now. So we're anywhere from finishing up, we just finished, except for signage, a fruit shrub garden at an emergency shelter and coffee shop in one of our pretty rural small towns, and that was a pretty exciting project to be nearing the end of. And then the others are in various stages, which I think some of our challenges are coming into play with working with a ton of different organizations, and again, that kind of bureaucracy and timeline issues. So like we have a very short growing season here. So things like our vegetable garden, to get that implemented and then be able to grow a fruitful garden in a small short summer can be kind of a challenge. So we have to make some shifts and some transitions, but overall, I think it's been going really well. Successes is the gardens that we've gotten completed have been fantastic. Working with a bunch of different groups, we were able to work with some youth groups on some of these gardens, and also just making connections locally in some of these small towns. We're trying to link all of our gardens to a virtual lab. So each garden will have signage where they can use a QR code and bring them to a website to help anyone who wants to learn how to do it themselves, and also how to reach our SWCD for contacts. So I think that would be a really great link where we can put in gardens where we can, doing what we can, but also help kind of foster some curiosity, or people who maybe don't know how to get started or who to talk to, that they'll be able to get the resources they need to do so. So yeah, I think that's where we're at. Thank you everyone for sharing your ideas as well. It's been fantastic to learn this summer and get to know people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claire. And something that you said reminded me of a reminder for all of our grantees. So especially for our 2021 grantees, sometimes we have a challenge getting things going. Sometimes plans change. We aren't able to access the sites that we thought we were going to access when we applied for our grants, etc. So please feel free to reach out when you run into those type of problems. Make sure we're in regular communication. As Dan Richardson indicated with the COVID issues, of course, a lot of the 2020 grantees had to shift their priorities and focuses, unfortunately. So just make sure that when you run into problems, you let me know what those are, and we can figure out a solution together to make sure we can move forward with your grant successfully. So thank you everyone on that. All right, next up, we're going to hear from a couple of my neighbors out here in California. First up, we have Derek Emmons from Contra Costa.
Hey, thanks, Ariel. And thanks for that reminder to contact you as well. Yeah, hi everyone. Derek Emmons. So Contra Costa County is in the East Bay area of the San Francisco metropolitan area. So we kind of have a mix of urban, suburban, and semi-rural areas. But we're just getting started on our urban ag grant. And one of the successes is that we have partnered with Cal State East Bay Concord campus, who has a kind of a large land area that they were allowing us to help develop the plans for a well-being garden, or a holistic well-being garden, focusing on both the nutrition aspects for local nursing students, as well as more of a broader eco-cultural restoration, where we're hoping to, well, we're in the process of building relationships with local tribal stakeholders, which that has also been, both a, the mix and the nuances of success and challenge, where, our county doesn't necessarily have any federally recognized tribes, but through this process of relationship building, we've been in communication with, our local Indigenous Land Trust, which is kind of a mixture of, some of the descendants of, the local and the people from that are descendants from the local missions, in partnership with the intertribal community. So the urban intertribal community, as well as a state recognized group from, that currently has its main community outside in Alameda County. So there's a few, I guess the challenges are tied into how to gracefully navigate, territory, which communities, and, how to proceed with integrity and actually getting real input and not just checking off, the tally box. But, so far we've, with the Cal State East Bay staff, we've had a chance to check out numerous school and college gardens, kind of around the general East Bay area. And, with the interviews from those managers, things have been looking a little bit more optimistic. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Derek. And I know we have a lot of individuals here who have worked with various underrepresented communities, tribes, indigenous peoples, et cetera. So if you have any recommendations for Derek, please feel free to share those as well in the chat box. All right, next up we have Colleen, who literally is my neighbor. Her office is only a couple miles from where I'm currently working.
Hi, Ariel. Hi, good morning, everybody. So my name is Colleen Hotchkiss. I'm the Sustainable Ag Specialist at the Alameda County RCD, so just south of Derrick. Our county encompasses Oakland and Berkeley, and a couple other larger cities in the Bay Area, and all of East County is very rural, mostly rangeland. So our project, we're just starting with our 2021 NACD grant. This is the second one that we've received. We had one in 2019. And this is supporting a program that we've been running since 2015 to provide urban farms conservation mini grants. So historically, that's looked like between 6 and 7 grants per year, up to about $3,000 for urban farms to implement conservation projects like hedgerows, cover cropping, composting, water catchment. In the past, with our previous funder, the priority has mainly been on water quality and stormwater concerns. And this year with the NACD funding, we're going to be providing 3 mini grants, as well as a really expansive amount of free technical assistance. And so the vision there is to provide funding for conservation projects for our urban farmers, as well as provide ongoing one-on-one technical assistance with farms that we've already worked with, new farms, to just really have that deepening impact with our urban farms. One of the challenges so far, I'm new in my role. I started at the RCD in January. So one of my challenges so far has just been getting a handle on the program and working with our partners, especially working with multiple partners, our local NRCS office, as well as University of California Cooperative Extension, and kind of navigating how things have operated in the past. This is a long-standing program for us, but I'm new. So that's been a challenge, but luckily there's a lot of familiar faces in Bay Area ag. So, I know some people already. And one of our major successes so far is that we have one outstanding mini grant recipient from our 2019 round. So we didn't issue any new mini grants last year in 2020, but we granted extensions to multiple urban farms that received funding in 2019. And one of those recipients still has not completed their project. There was like a lot of difficulty with the group in this community garden run by a neighborhood association in Hayward. And so we just now got like back in touch with people that are involved with it, re-engaged with it, which is really exciting. And because we have the NACD funding now that we wouldn't have had to help them complete their project last year, we can provide the technical assistance to them for free to design their drip irrigation plan and implement it, like help with the installation and all of that, basically like without having to fund that, to use their project budget for that. So they can use their entire project budget on materials, and then we can provide all the labor for free in addition. So that's really exciting to be able to offer that to this project, so we can just really wrap it up and get it done. So I'm excited for that.
Excellent. Thank you, Colleen. And you've hit on a couple of things that a lot of our grantees can probably help you with, which is keeping our partners on task. I have to run into this myself with a lot of you grantees. That's when my naggy emails come out. So thank you for responding. But also, since you are relatively new in your role, you have so many people here that you can learn from and glean from experience. So thank you for sharing. All right, next up, Barbara.
Hi, thank you. Good morning. My name is Barb Adkins. I am the Special Programs Manager at the Mason Conservation District in Mason County, Washington. We are about 30 minutes east of Olympia and about 2 hours south of Seattle in the Puget Sound area. So we have a lot of water and water issues. So we are a first-time grant recipient. Our grant is called Farms in Translation. And we are using the grant to provide technical assistance to our veteran farmers and our limited English proficient, or LEP communities. We don't seem to make a connection with those that part of our community, so we're trying to reach out. We will be bringing on board cultural ambassadors for both of those groups to help us bridge that gap in communicating and getting the information out and building a relationship with them. And we're also going to establish a community garden, which is a first for our district. The Mason Conservation District has, in the past several years, been heavily involved in salmon habitat restoration projects. So we are very new in the food system support area, which is actually our biggest challenge. We just can't seem to make any connections with the community. We're not looked at as a resource for that type of service. So we are, our challenge is making that, breaking through that wall and getting the community to see us in that light and to see us as a resource. And so far that's been quite challenging. We're not sure how to do that, not just with the veterans and the LEP community, but just everyone to kind of realize that we do have programs that we have going, such as Grow a Row and trying to reach out to the food banks. And it has been challenging for us and continues to be challenging to get them to recognize us. So that's our biggest challenge. Our success actually came out of a second challenge, our original community garden site. As you were mentioning, fell through, and we were all geared up for it, and then that just fell apart, and we had to scramble and throw out a big net to find another site. We reached out to the city of Shelton, which is our only city in this county, and they offered us one of their city parks, and this turned out to be a huge blessing for us, because this park is located right in the middle of a low-income, diverse residential neighborhood. The park has a ball field and basketball court and swings, so there are families that are constantly trekking through it because it's in the middle. They can cut through this park, and so it gets a lot of foot traffic. It's already fenced in, and the city is excited about having us there because it creates more eyes on the streets, more activity in the park, which is creates, I guess, better security. And so, yeah, that was our success. We're excited about doing this. It's actually a much better location now, and we are working with a group called the Hands-On Personal Empowerment, which goes by Hope, and they're going to be building these gardens for us. And we will also be using this as an opportunity to teach both garden construction and then urban ag once we get set up.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Barbara. And that's a great example of taking some lemons and turning it into lemonade. I know Jacob had a similar situation as well in Ohio of a site falling through, but it actually working out much better in the long run. So thank you for sharing that example. And we do have one grantee. She just let me know that she's listening in while she drives, Diana, who's from Southern California. And she has a lot of experience in building that profile of the district in the food system space. So they've done a lot to really build up Riverside Corona RCD's recognition in food systems. So I'll link some of the work that she's done in the chat box as well, which may provide some good examples for you. All right, next up, Juan, are you available to share some?
Hi, everyone. My name is Juan, and I represent the Berks County Conservation District from Central Pennsylvania. And we're a new member or a new grantee for this grant. Yeah, so we're quite new to all this. And this would be our first urban agricultural project as well for the district here. Our project is entitled Urban Agricultural Technical Assistance in the City of Reading. So basically this came about as we're working with Cultivating Communities, which is an initiative developed by the City of Reading Victory Garden Task Force that came about during the pandemic or last year. And so what we're going to focus on as part of this project is to provide technical and educational support And we're hoping to address or help educate in key factors such as soil health, water conservation, looking at stormwater runoff and non-point source pollution, climate change resiliency, and food security. So that's basically what we're focusing or will be looking at. And our target population are underserved communities in the city of Reading or within the city of Reading. So that's basically what we're looking at. And some of the activities that what I would say pose a challenge to this project. One, I'm new to the district. I'm new to the area as well. So getting this position or getting this role going for the project kind of challenges me actually getting to key stakeholders and going about in the city and identifying existing community gardens and groups to work with. So basically that's what we're looking at and hoping that this would be a very successful project as it is a new initiative for our district.
Awesome. Thank you, Juan. We'll look forward to seeing it grow. And of course, let us know if there's anything that we can help you with as you're moving forward as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right, Isis.
Hi, everyone. My name's Isis Howard, and I'm a project coordinator at the Goldridge RCD, which is the north coast of California, right below Mendocino and right above Marin in San Francisco. So Goldridge is a first-time grantee for the UAC grant, and our project is focused on providing outreach and technical assistance to non-traditional partners, underserved communities in Sonoma County who are interested in hosting or enhancing habitat for the western monarch butterfly and other pollinators. And so we've had a lot of successes so far in finding partners for this project. I think we're currently working with the Rotary Club to develop a Pollinator Paradise and Earth Day program for youth in our county. So we're hoping to bring out like hundreds of youth from all different schools. We'll focus outreach on low-income schools and non-English speaking students, and we have resources to do some translations, which is really awesome, and create these field workshops. And then we're also working with the School Garden Network to host their annual fall workshop for educators. So this one will be focused on establishing and utilizing pollinator habitat in school gardens, tying it to NGSS and curriculum standards. So really excited about that. They actually lost their funding for this. So this grant is literally making it possible for their workshop to continue at such a critical time with pollinators. So we're really excited about that. And we're also working with Yaka'ama, which is an intertribal nonprofit, to sort of develop and plan a walking and food garden, outdoor education spaces, and just community engagement opportunities at their land. It's kind of lacking resources right now, so they're hoping that we can help out with that. So definitely interested in building up those relationships and exploring what's possible there. And then a little challenge so far, we have established some pollinator sites on school gardens. A lot of kids were growing pollinator plants over COVID at home. And so school gardens are like, oh, we need to put them in. And so we get out to the garden sites and they're all like overgrown, and there's a lot of like prep work needed. So that's been a little minor challenge, but yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Isis. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are working on pollinators, especially in school gardens here too. So I'm sure there's a lot that can be shared there of how to keep those going and help support. So thank you for sharing. Next up, Jerry.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jerry Johnson. I work with Erin James, who spoke earlier about the project at the Jefferson County Conservation District in Louisville, Kentucky. So Erin's really the star of this project. I'm administrative support, so I just wanted to join just to
because I'm nosy and I wanted to see what all of you are doing, but then also to see if I could pick up any nuggets of how to better support her with her project.
Well, thank you, Jerry. And you hit on a key thing there. Many of our grantees have the technical staff that are actually doing the work under the grant, and then they have the administrative staff that are responsible for cashing those checks and making sure our technical staff get paid. So thank you for taking the opportunity to listen in and learn. And we wouldn't consider it nosy. We would consider it sharing information and being more supportive and helpful. So thank you. All right, next up, we have Shara Shagur.
Hi, it's Sarah Turgan, that's okay.
And we just spoke yesterday, so you'd think I'd remember that. Thank you.
So I do call Ariel a lot, and it's very helpful. I can highly recommend it to everybody. I'm Sarah Turgan, I'm the district manager for the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation District in Rhode Island. Where we have 3 conservation districts. I just have to say one thing. We're lucky we're a small state because we have, we're able to work with the other districts very easily on things. So that is helpful. And we have easy access to the state con. So that's a fabulous thing for us. So the wonderful thing about first of all, we are a first-time grantee and we're thrilled that we got this. It is part of a partnership that we have with a school department in the town, it's Portsmouth School Department, as well as with some other community groups. And so there are lots of different things that are going on the farm that we just started creating. We were gifted 5, not to own, but to lease 5 acres of farmland. By the landowner who is a total conservationist, really supportive of everything that we're doing. So that's wonderful. The school department is completely on board with everything and all of these wonderful things. And I called Ariel yesterday because I got an email from the person that I had hired to do this, the technical work, who said, I can't do field work. So like she'd been doing the planning stuff, but she's like, I just can't do field work. And I was like, huh? You know, clearly stated in the position description when she was hired. So it's the time of year where lots of people are out already doing field work. So I'm now in the position of, and I am not a technical person at all. I mean, I can move things and stuff like that, but I'm now having to, I think I might have lucked out and found someone who actually has a tremendous amount of knowledge and wants to jump on board and even do more stuff with the farm. So, but I called her in a panic saying that I don't know if we'll even be able to get anything in the ground this year. It might not be until next year. So the wonderful thing is we have so much support for this whole project, but my technical person who was doing it said she can't do it yesterday. So, but I'll figure it out. It'll happen. It's a great spot. The kids are really excited about it. We have a kids garden and they're really excited about the possibility of monarch butterflies flying around them. And so, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Yet another good example of turning lemons into lemonade. So thank you for reminding everybody to give me a call too if they have issues. And look forward to seeing what you're going to do with your project. All right, next up, Shonda.
Hey there, I think you called on me. The audio went really funky there for a minute. Okay, great. I'm Chanda Cooper. I'm in the Richland Soil and Water Conservation District in Columbia, South Carolina. We were a 2020 grant recipient, and our project was to rehabilitate a community garden on a county park property. It had 12 raised beds, and we converted it into a pollinator demonstration garden. So it did include fruits and vegetables, but the point of it was to say, you need pollinators to help make your garden grow. We were awarded the grant, I believe it was February last year, and I've heard a couple people talk about the bureaucratic process. It took us about a month to get the county to sign off on us moving forward with the project because they own the park. And then the day after we got that approval, the county shut down for COVID. And it remained shut down for COVID until July 1st. And of course, our grant ended. We had to get an extension, but our grant closed on June 30th. So it was, you know, the perfect window of county being closed and us having this grant. So our plan changed a lot. Our technical person was able to be out at the park and establish the garden and did a ton of work by herself, getting the garden rehabilitated, but we couldn't have volunteers in the garden at first. The whole thing was closed to the public. We had a really hard time letting people know what we were doing at the garden. We couldn't build up that, you know, the community support, the community volunteers that we wanted to have. We were able to start allowing small groups of specially invited people to come in late last autumn. So that's when we really started trying to, you know, get community members on board to take over management of the garden once the grant ended. We were able to partner with our public information office during this time. They were looking for interesting content to share from the county since there wasn't a lot happening, a lot of good news happening that they could share. And we were, of course, looking for ways to tell the story about pollinators and habitat and the importance of conserving them. So we worked with our public information office folks to make a series of 18 short videos, and they publicized them on their YouTube and social media and e-newsletters. And we actually got a lot more exposure and visibility out of the project doing that than we would have had we gone with our original plan. So it was kind of shallow education because, you know, these are really short videos and there's only so much info you can pack into them. But we had over 17,000 views on the video series and just reached a lot of new audiences that, you know, had never heard of our conservation district. So that was a success. We also hosted a couple of webinars for teachers, educators, home gardeners. We developed a lesson plan for grades 1 through 6 about pollinator conservation. And we were able in the end to get a couple of community members to take on management of the garden long-term. So we've had a transition from our technical assistance person who was on the grant to community volunteers who are continuing to maintain the garden. And we're looking at how we can continue to support it in the future, even without the grant funding. So that's where we are. We just wrapped up. I've submitted the paperwork and it was a great experience. Hope we can get another grant at some point in future.
Thank you, Shonda. Is my sound okay now or is it still weird? No. Okay. Thank you everyone for these great examples. I am going to continue to send emails. Hopefully we'll do this again. Apologies again for my sound being weird. I'll stay on the line though and type you things in the chat box if anyone has any specific questions as well. So thank you so much.